This is scary, starting a video like this. I haven't done this before, and this is not what I'm used to. But regardless, hi. This is a video on how to have great lighting. Number 1 is control all lighting. Now, if there's bad indoor lighting, then turn all of them off. All of them. Okay, now starting from there, slowly add more lights. The number 1 thing is don't use ceiling lights. Ceiling lights give really bad shadows under the eyes, so you want to avoid using those. So starting off with all the lights turned off, the first light you want to add is the key light. You start off by having one light around 45 degrees-ish from your subject. That's called the key light. Now from there, your shot should look like this. It's pretty simple, but it's not awful lighting, at least not to start with. After that, you can add practicals, which are basically any lights in the shot that you use to give lighting. So with that, it should look like this with one practical, or you can add another light in the background like that. I ended up liking the light without the second orange light more, so I ended up going with that one. However, regardless, you can add and take away lights as much as you need until you find what works best for you. Now, adding lights in the background can add depth, so that's why you want to do that. You don't always need lighting, however, it's typically good just for depth to be able to see the background, so that's why you want to add lights. One tip if you want to make the scene more interesting is you can add different color lights. So for instance, I had my camera set to around 5600 Kelvin, which is the light temperature, and then I had an orange light in the background, which kind of gave a different feel. So having different lights in your scene can help with that. Number 4 is use natural light. Now, with beginners who may have few or no lights at all, using windows can be a big help, like this scene right here. I literally have this lamp and then this giant window, and that's all this lighting is. I do have an Amaran light right there, which is putting light on those guitars. But even when I turn that light off, this still looks fine. It just, again, with depth, it looks better. One thing I can suggest when writing a script or when filming something is write the scene around your surroundings. So if you have a scene for a short film that you want to do where 2 people are talking, place them in front of a big window, and that way you can use the window as their main key light, and then you don't have to worry about lighting at all. To me, this scene looks as professional as it can get with the camera that I have, and no lights are turned on at all except for the giant window or the sun. So you can absolutely get professional lighting with no lights at all. All it takes is a little bit of creativity. One thing I could have done to make the scene more dramatic or to add more depth is get negative fill and put negative fill on the right side of me. That way, that side of my face is even more darker. This scene for my short film reality check used the exact same premise, or using a back window light to light the scene. Now for this scene specifically, I did have another light off to the right lighting his face. However, I could have easily made this a silhouette shot, which means you couldn't have seen the face at all, and exposed the shot for the background, and that would have looked just as cool. Number 5, use coverage. This is for outside. If you film under a tree or when it's overcast, then you won't have that direct sunlight beating down on you, which means the scene will look a lot more soft. This is an example of what not to do. In my latest short film, Redemption, there's a scene where I'm basically standing outside in broad daylight, but it wasn't overcast and I was not under a tree, which meant it looked awful. This is my least favorite shot out of the entire film, and I kind of wish I had spent 5 minutes fixing this, but at the time I didn't really see a clear solution. As you can see, I'm super overexposed, and when I was editing it, I tried to fix it as much as I could, but there still wasn't a ton I could do. So the only way to avoid this is to fix it before the problem occurs. What I mean by that is if I had planned the shot under a tree, then I would have avoided that entirely, because the tree would have been blocking and covering pretty much most of the sun. However, because I shot in broad daylight with the sun at 12 o'clock beating right down, it looks really bad, and I kind of regret that. Another scene from the film Reality Check is when the character is sitting under a tree. This is, I think, the best shot I could have gotten at all, just because of how it looks, and I did not do anything at all. I didn't use negative fill, and I didn't use any lights. It was just the sun. However, because the sun was above us going through all the leaves, it added a lot more detail and it added a lot of depth in the scene. One scene that worked out really well in Redemption is this scene, which the only reason why it worked out was because it was overcast. If it was super sunny, like in this blooper right here, then it would not have looked as good. However, because we waited until it was overcast and because the sun wasn't directly in line and there were clouds covering it, the scene looked really well. One thing we did to this scene though is add some negative fill, as you can see right here, which, in case you're wondering, negative fill is basically a giant sheet of black material that adds contrast to a scene. If you put it up next to the actor's face, then it adds a shadow on that side. So you can put the negative fill on this side and the light on the other side. That way the negative fill absorbs some of the light, so there's a bigger shadow on the side where there's no light. As you can see here, it's the exact same shot, but it's sunny, which looks nowhere near as good. So there you go, 5 essential tips on how to have pro lighting. I have never made a video like this, and this was honestly a lot more scary than I thought it would be. So if you like this video and if you learned something and want to see more videos like this, then subscribe. Also, if you want to watch the videos that I talked about, here's Redemption and here's Reality Check. Check those out, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.